The one person business roadmap. 99% of creators make this mistake. This is a video in the series that we've been doing on one person businesses, business eye. And this one is meant to give somewhat of a roadmap just along your journey to know what to expect, because there's different stages, which we'll dive into, but I don't want other people like looking at what other people are doing in business and expecting that they should do the same thing, because a 100,000 follower account that's making $1 million a year is not going to be doing anything remotely similar to what you should be doing at the beginning. So to start this off, this video is sponsored by me, because digital economics, you don't have to enroll in it as a cohort anymore. It can be enrolled in as a self-paced course now. So it's not closed off till February. You can get in at any time. And so in a nutshell, I'll let you explore if you want to. I'll save the promotion for later, but you can just go to the link in the description, click, see what it's all about. But in short, it's productizing yourself. Everything we've been talking about in this one person business series, it is systems for doing that with a Notion command center. So templates to just plug and play, create your brand, write content, systemize it, create a product, create a service, make it profitable from the very start with zero experience, and how to promote and automate promotions so you can consistently make sales. So it's growing your brand with content, leading people into your product or service, and then automating that or systemizing it to 2 to 4 hours a day so you can continue to grow and monetize with time. So now let's get back into it. So if you're a one-person creator business or want to be, pay attention, because I've been in this game for 3 years now in the creator game, right? I did freelancing and other stuff before that, so I had a little bit of a head start when I got into the whole creator scene. Now, I've seen accounts that are small and large fall off the map. I've also seen small accounts making 100,000 a month. I've also seen huge accounts with a ton of followers making less than $1,000 a month. And most people see one or the other and just think it's a bad thing. I'm here to tell you that you can do both. You can grow big and you can monetize, because like the classic saying is that like you don't want to aim for followers or just grow really fast in followers, because then you're not going to be able to monetize because they're very generic. And then it's like, if you understood marketing to any extent, you can raise the awareness level of that audience to the point of being a buyer. And if you stick at a low audience and you're in that cycle of, I need to reach out and do manual labor or have some form of system outside of what I've built in order to land clients, I don't see that as sustainable, right? We want to continue to grow and evolve to the point of where we can control our time and income, the things that we work on, and just have complete control over our lives and our businesses, but still providing value and doing what we're supposed to do as a business, but not getting trapped in one specific stage. So I'm here to tell you that you can do both of the above. Grow big. If you have the skill, it's a skill. It's not a luck or just like growing out of nowhere. It's a skill. Social media is a skill. And you can create an offer ladder of valuable products and services that allow you to pull in an income, preferably doing what you enjoy, because that's what your offer or product should revolve around, and decreasing the time you spent on actually fulfilling that product or service. And so we do this with something that most people just skip over or don't think about at all, and that is leverage. In this case, specifically, it's digital leverage. And that's part of what I'm saying here, is that if you had an audience and didn't even sell through it or even talk about, let's say, web design as your freelance service, I could get in front of a celebrity and potentially persuade them to purchase web design services from me just in the DMs alone. I can also promote a product or service to my audience and have it reach 10x the followers that I have, because the network effect, right? My promotions and my content are not only reaching my followers, but their followers as well. So 500,000, and if every single person had like 500 followers that follow me, then multiply that, or I have multiple people with over 100,000 follower audiences following me, because that's what creators do, is just follow each other. And so I have a lot more potential traffic than just those 500,000 followers. That compounds. And along with that, I can increase or decrease my income as much as I want to, depending on how much I want to work, what new projects I'm working on, if I want to work on new projects, etc., etc. And just to like put a cherry on top, if I really wanted to, I couldn't do this before if I didn't have a lot of followers. And that's why I always find it funny, people telling you not to gain a lot of followers. If no one's saying this, you're probably not in the social media circle of people saying this, but marketers on social media do say this. So if I really wanted to, I could make $50,000 in 24 hours. And if I really wanted to push it and like step moral boundaries, which I don't want to do because it doesn't feel good, I could make 100,000 in 24 hours or even more. And on special occasions like Black Friday, when it's justified, I made $139,000 in the course of 3 to 4 days. And I know screenshots can be photoshopped and you may not believe it, but I'm just putting it out there. And so before we dive further, I have to preface once again that this is for one-person creator businesses. This is for people that want to talk about their interests, build an income doing so, not hire many employees, if any at all, and unlock that level of freedom that you can, that technology has allowed the individual to do for themselves. So this is not for freelancers, or it can be for freelancers if you want to build an audience, but overall, the main message I'm trying to put out here is, if you have a goal of your own and this video does not align with your goals, don't let flashy screenshots or other things distract you from the goal. You can still watch it and gain awareness, but overall, just keep that in mind. The internet enables 8 billion monopolies. To make things simple, your brand as a creator or your personal brand is based around what you want out of life, the thing that you are leading your followers towards. And everyone has the same desires, and those desires or those problems or those goals all fall under the eternal markets. This is a very important concept for you to understand. The eternal markets are health, wealth, relationships, and a bonus is happiness. So the first three of those, health, wealth, and relationships, are survival based. They're self-actualization based. And the last one, happiness, is self-transcendence based. And these markets are where all burning problems exist, because that's like survival problems are the most burning problems. That's what people are trying to solve, no matter which way they're doing it. If they're starting a business, it's because they're usually trying to fix some part of their survival. If they're buying a nice car, it's because they're usually trying to survive via status. And so with these markets, that's how you create a compelling angle for your marketing or just products or brand or content in general, is by targeting these relevant, profitable, and evergreen markets. But now, we don't just want a normal old personal brand or creator. We want a personal monopoly, like the Naval quote said, a monopoly. Irreplaceable is a good word, but how do we become irreplaceable? By pursuing your genuine curiosity, because that's what makes you, you. And you are the only you on this planet. So if you want a desaturated niche of one, you are the niche. But the thing is most people can't pursue their curiosity, at least not consistently or full time. Why? Because their attention is being manhandled by their base psychological needs. Self-actualization, the hierarchy of needs, that is a need, not a want for living the good life. So your future isn't about competition with others. It's about competition with your distracted mind. Meaning, an exceptional future belongs to those who can master their survival, pursue their genuine curiosity, and pass down what they learned along the way. So, improve yourself, solve your own problems, master your survival, document your journey, pursue your curiosity, and separate yourself from the crowd. How you do this is unique to you. If this helps you understand it more, your story is your brand, right? A story, it has its highs and lows, it has problems that you overcome over and over. It's like an endless story. And as many marketers know, stories are what sell. Stories is just how humans make sense of the world. Transformations with things like sales or the sales process and you implying a transformation, that is a story. When you're writing copy or copywriting, it always starts with a lead, which illustrates a problem and agitates a problem, and then it shows you how to overcome it. And then it gives you like testimonials on how to do so for proof. And it's just, marketing and sales are just different tactics with a foundation of human psychology that help you show someone that they can transform, and preferably help them to transform. That is the right way of doing marketing and sales. There's of course like exploitation and manipulation in this to reach a non-mutual benefit, and that's what's labeled as a scam. It's promising a certain thing and not being able to deliver on it. So I'm just putting this out there, is that you have to be able to deliver on something, and if you can't and you don't refund them, that's a scam. So I always give this example of, if I'm pursuing financial freedom as just like a big broad goal, my path to get there is going to be completely different from someone else's. If I'm going to learn a skill like web design in order to freelance to unlock financial freedom, while another person goes to like a high-paying tech job and then starts investing and then eventually retires. Those are completely different paths. They're completely different stories with different problems, but it helps people reach the same goal. And that story is valuable to the generation under you. That's what people want to follow along with, right? That's why you watch a movie or read a book, is because of an interesting story. So if you can put yours out online while still distributing like actionable advice and valuable information along with it, then you've created your own personal monopoly, or mental monopoly is how I like to call it. So why is this important? Because that's what we're here to do, is self-actualize and transcend. You pass down your lessons and you help others get there faster. And so if enough people do this, just imagine what kind of world we can create. I am truly, like, maybe I'm fucking delusional, who knows, but I am like, I feel like I'm putting across a good message here of, one, improve yourself, help others improve themselves with your prior experience, and both of you reap the benefits of doing so, right? And so if enough people self-actualize and transcend through this method with business as their vessel to do so, then they open up more people to the potential of creative problem solving, right? Using their minds for something else rather than themselves, right? Selflessness after you solve your selfish needs. Creativity, innovation, and discovery through the pursuit of curiosity are what will take us into the next phase of evolution, whatever it may be. Build distribution, then build whatever you want. In life, as Jocko Willink says, discipline equals freedom, but in business, especially this one-person business, distribution equals freedom. Distribution, this is an important concept. This is a very important concept that, again, not many people talk about, right? This falls under digital leverage, but everyone is focused on like the generic social media tactics. Distribution, from the lens of a creator business, is the potential traffic that you have to send to a product, service, or just like some crevice of the internet or some internet content or something. And so there are three types of distribution. There is built, borrowed, and bought. So you build distribution by growing on social media, right? That's what social media is nowadays. It's a way to gather an audience or a readership for the value that you are providing. And the more people you have there, you retain that audience, right? But the next thing you should do is deplatform them, because social media can go away at any time. It may not, it may. And especially if you're polarizing and post like controversial takes, you could get canceled from the platform and lose your entire audience. So deplatform them by sending them to an email list, because nobody can take emails away from you, or a community, a Telegram channel, something like that, and continuously feed them into that and deliver more value and depth in those areas. And so that is the most important one, is building distribution, right? Because you're not borrowing it or paying for it. It's kind of in your control. But the next one is borrowing distribution. And this is for things like podcasts, where you can get on someone else's podcast and promote yourself and your products. You can pay for a podcast sponsor. That kind of falls under paid. But other things like you being mentioned in someone's newsletter, or you doing a guest post on someone's blog, or just someone retweeting you and you getting to borrow that traffic, but at the same time, it's spilling over into your own built traffic when you're doing things like you get retweeted or shared on Instagram by a big account. And so the best way to do this is, we talked about a personal monopoly, but the next thing is the mental monopoly, which I like to kind of frame as just having great ideas that people tie to you, right? We'll talk about this more, but it's like when you read your favorite book, or when I ask you what your favorite book is, and you say, oh, it's The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and then you think of an idea that you learned from that book that you attribute to him, that's what I mean, right? When you put out consistently good ideas that stick in people's heads, when they come across something in their life that reminds you of that idea, they're going to be reminded of you. And that's what makes you unique among the people that are just putting out generic content and quotes. And so lastly, you buy distribution by like paying for ads like Google, Facebook, Instagram, etc. You can also pay for shout outs, but these all like overlap, right? So you can pay for shout outs from people to borrow their audience and have some of that spill over into yours. But overall, out of all three of those, you should focus on building your own distribution. So here is an image of my current distribution network, right? So at the top, I like to think of a brand as having three pillars, which is growth, authenticity, and authority. So at the top, with growth, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, those are my top of funnel like growth. That's how I build distribution, is with short form content on the platforms where it's much easier to control growth with things like shares, as opposed to authenticity in the bottom right with podcast, YouTube, newsletter, even like blog SEO would fall under that. That's where I talk more and like give more actionable advice, but also work in some of my own language, because podcast, YouTube, SEO, they're much slower to grow. And I prefer to grow with Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then transfer those over to the podcast, YouTube, or blog or newsletter. And then in the bottom left, to build authority, it's either, for me, it's a course, cohort, and community. But for many people, I'm writing a book right now. And for others, it can be more than that. It's just a product that allows people to buy from you, invest in you, them get something valuable in return, and that exchange be meaningful, right? People that haven't started a business before usually think like, oh, sales is bad, and they go and buy stuff every day that they absolutely love, right? And so in the middle of the graphic, the brand revolves around my interests, expertise, and experience, and these all overlap, right? Your income, lifestyle, and freedom are limited by the amount of time your products take to fulfill. So with a projected 62% of jobs being threatened by automation in the next decade, it makes sense that the highest paid individuals will be the ones that leverage the power of their mind, the creative ability, knowledge, and experience in their mind, right? So in the last one person business video, I went over how you have a $100,000 product in your head, AKA based on your knowledge and experience. So you can go watch that one if you want to understand building or creating a product. And so with this, when you have an absurd amount of distribution, like traffic built, but you only have a service, like a freelance service or agency service or coaching service that requires your time to fulfill and not a digital product, or you haven't productized as you grow in order to free up more time and be able to take on more customers, and you're going to have a bad time. So if you don't have a product in place as you're growing that will sell, fulfill, and maintain itself while you sleep, then an influx in traffic, let's say from someone mentioning you on a podcast or you going on someone's podcast and you having an overabundance of potential clients or customers and you not being able to handle them or take them on, it's a pretty wise decision by the time you're growing and growing to pivot out of client work or hire someone else on. But since we are talking about this from the lens of the one person business, it's better to productize and just be able to control your own time. And so another thing that people skip over is that the more people you help, the more leverage you have, right? This is why I think authors have so much more leverage than, let's say, like a $200,000 a month agency, is because their ideas are in more people's hands, right? They impact more people and have more dedicated fans, to the point is, and this isn't all about money, but if they were to go and sell something like a coaching service, they could charge outrageously high prices if they wanted to, or they could just do like an automated or have like a cohort style thing and sell so much more than the people that are doing the direct outreach left and right. Internet content is idea warfare on mental real estate. Most one-person business beginners don't see internet content for what it is. It's not about catching attention. It's important, but it's not about catching attention. It's not about gaining the most followers. It's not about having the most engagement. It's about valuable ideas. And valuable ideas equal relevant, understandable, and actionable, to the point of being spread without personal effort. So the more perspective shifting ideas that you put out into the world, the more mental real estate in the collective psyche you are going to occupy. Like how an author, and let's say The Power of Now, and how he kind of put mindfulness on the map of a chunk of the collective psyche. And so if you want help with these big ideas and other things like that, I talk about it all the time in 2-Hour Writer, my writing course. It talks about like persuasive writing and idea generation in the practical setting of building a social media audience. So the big problem with all of this is that most creators are encouraged to steal or swipe high performing ideas. And this isn't a bad thing, it's just overused, because I do this all the time. I steal ideas from high performing YouTube videos. So I go to a channel that I aspire to be like and filter their videos by most popular. I go to Medium and look at their articles, because Medium's algorithm gives you content based around your interests. You can get some incredible ideas just by skimming the homepage. And then top tweets. So with Twemex or Tweet Hunter, you can filter any account's tweets and see what their highest performing topic is. People sleep on Twitter so much, right? Because a good tweet that went viral is the perfect newsletter, blog, YouTube headline, right? Or just the start of a newsletter or something like that, or something that can be incorporated in there. So there's more value in the actual newsletter itself. So with that said, we have to understand the evolution of your journey, because I do think that it is very important that people start with high performing topics and just growing in general. But as with everything in life, there are developmental stages. So these stages, they have a certain set of opportunities that are available to them that are in alignment with their skills, experience, and expertise. A stage 1 creator can't send out an email and make $50,000 on demand. It's just not going to happen. Nor can they DM anyone and get a response, right? You have to put in the reps and slowly build authority and leverage over time to the point of you having more opportunities available to yourself. And to preface these are all made up. There can be different stages. There can be different aspects of the stages. This is just what I've noticed and the most common patterns that I see in the creator business because I've been doing it for a long time. I've been in contact with thousands of other creators. I know what their struggles are. I know what your struggles are. I'm going to help with that. So stage 1 creators or low leverage creators. This is where every single person starts assuming that you don't have prior business experience or just have a strategy already laid out for you. And as I said earlier, the people that get into this first stage or at least start understand that social media growth is a skill. It can be practiced. It's not just a matter of luck. People grow on social media every single day because they understand what it takes to actually do it. So the first thing that you should focus on as a beginner in your creator journey is high performing content. You can't just start posting whatever you feel like. You can't just post something because you feel like it's clever or artsy. You have to understand what actually leads to growth. And if you aren't growing, it's not the reader's fault because you feel like they lack understanding. It's because you lack the ability to make your message understandable to them. So the best way I can explain this is to just study high performing content, right? Go to your favorite YouTube channel, filter their videos by most popular, see which ones did the best. Why did they do the best? Question it. Study top tweets, actually immerse yourself in, follow the social media accounts that you aspire to be like and look at their content, see which ones do better than others, and use tools like Tweet Hunter or Twemex to actually go in and look at their top tweets all around and note common patterns, understand why they did well, and try to emulate that. So the second thing is to use content templates as training wheels. So almost every single social media course that you'll take has like templates to structure your writing or your posts or your message so that they get more engagement. And so I do this by just copy and pasting certain tweets into like a note and then using the structure of the tweet as a way to write other tweets. So I use this kind all the time because this was a tweet that did really well for me at the beginning. And so I noted that down and then started moving more in a better direction as I realized what was doing good. So the tweet is right here. I can read it, but you can see that it has a hook. It has 3 bullet points to hold and keep attention. So it delivers value as well by giving actionable advice. And then it starts to wrap everything up and give a conclusion with a potential pain point that people may face. So the third thing that you need to focus on is short form growth and idea validation. So tweets, reels, TikToks, shorts, Instagram posts, LinkedIn posts, not long form YouTube, not long form podcasts, not long form newsletter yet or blogs, because as I said before, top of funnel on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, you can control growth a lot more. On Twitter, you can network or pay to get retweets. Same thing with Instagram with shares, same thing with LinkedIn with comments, and that's how you grow. With YouTube and other things, it takes more time and you want to attack those platforms with validated ideas that come from Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. So put out a bunch of ideas on, let's say, Twitter because you aren't penalized for posting multiple times a day, and then see which ones do the best as you grow and network with other people and actually try to get eyes on your content, and then take your best ideas, turn them into a newsletter, turn them into a YouTube video or a blog or whatever you want to grow on next. And as I said before, the way that I grew on Instagram and LinkedIn was I already had viral tweets from growing on Twitter, right? So all I had to do was screenshot those with the social proof or the likes and retweets on them, put them on Instagram, go through some form of a growth strategy or try to get my content shared. And I got a lot more followers than most people would get simply because the idea was already validated. People saw that. So what happens if you get trapped in stage 1? Well, you end up as an account with a lot of followers, but zero loyalty, as most people warn against. If you disappear one day, nobody's going to ask like, hey, where'd Dan go? And usually they get obsessed with engagement and just never bother to create a product or service. So stage 2 creators or medium leverage creators. Once you hit 10K followers or so, you should feel like you have the social media growth game down and that you can continue growing. And you don't have to wait until this point to monetize. I actually actually recommend not waiting till this point to monetize, but this is where the real money will come into play. At 500 followers, I had a 3K month. At 10,000 followers, I had a 10K month. At 50,000 followers, I had a 50K month. At 200,000 followers, I had a scratch that. It was a 200K month because of Black Friday. If this shocks you, good. If it doesn't, props. Hopefully it breaks some people out of their limiting money beliefs. I need to get better at writing tweets. So it's just a baseline, and it sounds pretty fucking crazy, but the reason I put this out there is because I thought $100,000 in 1 month was absolutely insane. It was insanity, right? And this was like 2 years ago, but then I saw someone doing the same exact thing that I did, making $100,000 a month. And I know he was being honest about it because I knew who he was and I talked to him on a frequent basis and knew that he was a trustworthy guy. And so that blew my mind. And I was just like, I want to make 10K a month. I'd be happy with that. And I would be, and I was, but it's like, I can push more, and it's fun to push more in business. So the first thing you should do in stage 2, and you don't necessarily have to wait till stage 2 to do this, is to learn direct response marketing. Direct response marketing is the skill that made people like Alex Hormozi rich before they started going all in on brand and giving everything away for free. And now I think you should give everything away for free, but over time with your content over the course of 12, 24, 36 months, and you can aggregate all of those points for convenience into a product or service that people can pay for speed. That's what people pay for, is speed, aggregation, convenience. And so this is the same story for someone like Justin Welsh, who many of you know, we did a podcast together, but he did a similar thing where you study books like Cashvertising. There's a book you can go study and then start learning on your own, go down a Google rabbit hole of direct response marketing and copywriting. And then you get results with that, but then you can start to feel a bit like salesy, right? And so you start to become self-aware of that and slowly transition into a more authentic voice while still maintaining the principles of direct response marketing, right? Because a lot of people, the principles of human psychology are the same in how to craft a compelling message that leads to sales, but the tactics for doing so in the past like decade have been just kind of like wonky with all these sales funnels and countdown timers and, you know, all that stuff that kind of at this point would scream that it is a scam or just less trustworthy, even if it is completely authentic. So the second thing to do in stage 2 is to build a high ticket offer. Why? Because when you're at 10,000-ish followers, you just don't have a large enough audience to like sustain a income for yourself with a digital product or like a low ticket product, right? So you're better off creating a coaching, consulting, or freelancing service, and that you can work your way up to charging $2,500 to $5,000 by stacking specific skills and applying them to a problem in a specific business, right? It's like being a plumber, but for a business. It's finding a problem because you understand their business as a whole, creating an offer specifically for that, reaching out, presenting the perfect solution to the perfect person, actually getting them results, and then boom, you can take that down the road, watch my other video on creating a product, turn that system into a product, and you already have results that you can use to sell that product. And by the time that you reach 80,000, 100,000 followers or stage 3, then you're in a very good place to monetize from products alone, or just decrease the amount of time you spend on client work. And so in the first one-person business model video, which I'll link somewhere, I talk about a minimum viable offer. So if you have no idea where to start in terms of creating a service or a high ticket service that you can sell, I would start there. Watch that video, watch the minimum viable offer part, and start by charging $500 to $1,000 and then slowly work your way up until you can charge more and more. And by that time, you'll know what to do, right? You only need to get past a certain point before you know, like, okay, this is what I do next to get more sales. So between stage 2 and stage 3, you should have enough time and skill to get to the point of landing 4-ish clients at $2,500 a month, so $10K a month. And that kind of matches what I said in the tweet earlier about making $10K a month at 10,000 followers. It's through direct outreach and certain strategies to actually get people to sign up for a high ticket. So the third thing you do in stage 2 is to branch into long form content. So by now, you know exactly what kind of tweets, posts, threads do well for you. You know your highest performing topics. So you want to take these and start creating depth and authority behind them by turning them into a newsletter, fleshing them out, talking about your thoughts behind them, or turning that newsletter into YouTube video or podcast, and just getting used to giving more value than like a little 280 character tweet, because this depth is what's going to lead to more authentic sales, right? You don't have to stick in the direct response copywriting where it's like lead them down a thread, immediately get them to click, lead them down the landing page, immediately get them to buy, etc., etc. As a content creator, when you're building an audience, it's not like paid ads where you have to retarget them over and over again. They're going to consistently see your content over and over again. And if they're on your newsletter, you're going to raise them up the levels of awareness in marketing to the point of wanting to buy your product. And it doesn't have to be the first time around. If you just stick it out and pay attention to what's going right and what's going wrong and doubling down on what's going right, then you'll do well. And so what happens if you get trapped in this stage 2, is that you pretty much build yourself into another 9 to 5. I see people all the time hovering between 10 and 30,000 followers, and they aren't doing anything related to a product or growing more or maintaining the growth that they built up until that point by incorporating high performing topics. And they just get trapped in a cycle of reach out to a prospect, get a client, not have enough time to do anything else, and just continuously doing that, living in a state of constant stress, because if their client leaves, they're down $2,500 a month, but they don't have the time to continuously build an audience because they're just in the next phase of trying to find that new client. All right, so stage 3 creators, the high leverage creator. Most people don't reach this stage because it's impossible without survival mastery, ego development, and multidisciplinary study. People get locked into the focus on one thing mindset, which isn't bad at the beginning by any means. Build themselves into that high ticket client cycle, and they don't pursue complementary skills or interests that will make them an individual, right? It will individualize them to the point of reducing saturation in the market. I incorporate spirituality and philosophy into my business videos, and I guarantee you that's why a lot of you watch this. That's why I stand out amongst other to the people that actually like my content. So the first thing you do as a stage 3 creator is to productize, build a network, and leverage the results you have from the high ticket service that you built. By now, you may have already created a product because you've watched my other video. If so, good work. But if you haven't, at least by now you should have some results with the service that you've been offering, the high ticket service, freelancing, coaching, consulting. And you've iterated on that system or just the curriculum or whatever it may be in that high ticket service to the point of it getting results consistently and you having results with it, right? You've refined the system enough so that you are confident by productizing it and putting it into a product and accompanying it with a curriculum that teaches people how to use it, and then distributing that in a way that doesn't require your time. So my advice is take your system and method for getting results, reposition it towards a broader audience, beginner level, because you have a huge audience. You want to leverage that. Use your results as initial social proof to have a 6-figure plus launch. And then in terms of networking, you should have been networking this entire time, but you can network with bigger players now, right? You can DM people with 100,000 to 1 million followers, get on their good side. Let's say I grew on Twitter and I have 100,000 followers and I want to grow on Instagram. So I reach out to someone on Instagram who has 100,000 followers and I'll be like, hey, I'll help you grow on Twitter if you help me grow on Instagram with the validated ideas that I have. And that's exactly what I did. And that's how I have more Instagram followers than I do Twitter followers now. So the second thing is to refine your ideas and diversify. So the graphic that we showed earlier illustrated that my distribution network or my brand had 3 key pillars, right? Growth, authenticity, and authority. So here's another simplified graphic if you want to screenshot this just to keep it at the top of mind. But growth comes from short form content. Authority comes from product or service results. Authenticity comes from long form big idea synthesis. And of course, these all overlap each other, right? Don't get narrow viewed into one of those that I just listed. They all overlap. It's just priority. So in stage 1, 80% more or less of your content should be focused on growth. In stage 2, when you have a service that you can offer, you start to incorporate more authority or authenticity based content and depth and long form with like writing, YouTube video, podcasts, etc. So in stage 3, it's time to double down on your best ideas and use them to diversify your audience across different platforms. So as I mentioned earlier, I grew very quickly on Instagram and LinkedIn by reaching out to big accounts on those platforms, showing them I add value with my following and time in the game, offering an exchange of services, shares, or money to help me grow in the most optimal way possible. And I already had content that performed well, you see. I knew which ones led to the most followers. I took that content, I put it on the other platform, and I used the knowledge or help from that other person to grow really fast on another platform. You don't have to start with Twitter, but I'm just telling you like how you can start to do this and branch out, because most people think it's just like money is how you do it. No, there's social capital. If I have 100,000 followers, that is extremely valuable to someone else that is trying to either promote to that audience or grow via that audience, and I can vet them and see if my audience would actually enjoy that and exchange value. So the third thing you do as a stage 3 creator is to prioritize long form content. So once you reach a point of high followers and high income, it's time to reposition yourself more towards a synthesizer, right? Developing those big ideas that stick in people's heads, or the mental monopoly, as I put it earlier. And you can do this at the start. As I said, all of these are just like guidelines or help you become aware. You can do this at the start, but this is where it becomes very important for the future of your brand, so you don't become a commodity, because people are going to be copying you left and right. I see this all the time on Twitter, Instagram, etc. I have something pop off, and then the next day I see like 10 of the same posts with the same exact thing that I said, slightly different, so it can't be considered plagiarism, but they're not going to make it in the future. I promise you that, because they don't have the creative ability to consistently come up with novel perspectives. So this is best done with long form like newsletters, YouTube, podcasts, etc. And in short, you pursue what interests you. You study the big picture ideas of those interests, right? Not the minor details, not the minor nuances. You study the big picture ideas. When you read a book, what's the 5 huge ideas that they wrote that entire book around? And then you sit with those ideas. You go on a walk, you experience life. And with those, you start to connect the dots through experience and just writing about them and taking note of them and being able to connect them. And I'm building a software to help with this. I wish I had it ready so I could promote it, because it's going to be fucking sick. But stay tuned for the software around content synthesis. So the third thing is note patterns based on your experience, connect the dots with long form content, create your own versions of concepts, processes, and philosophies. And what I mean by this is, if many of you know the Eisenhower matrix, right? So the Eisenhower matrix is a priority matrix. So it's things that you should pay attention to, things that you should forget, things that you should delegate, etc. So if I had something for prioritizing my day and it made sense and it was like a system, then I could name it my own, right? The Eisenhower matrix is just a random name with a valuable idea or concept. And with time, that has grown and people talk about it all the time. So if I had one that was truly helpful for people and I distribute it via my content or a book, and then other people start talking about it, that's a contagious idea and it sticks in other people's heads, and my ideas and my brand grows without me doing anything. It's like a positive mind virus. And so lastly, take pieces of that long form content for your short form content. And this is where things get really fun and fulfilling. This is where I didn't come up with the concept of one person business, but I took it and I gave it an entirely new meaning, right? One person business just stood for like people operating a business as one person with the technology of the internet, but I turned it into the like productize yourself, self-monetization, turning you into the brand, truly being a one person business and doing what you love for a living and actually being able to back that with systems that get that result. And that's what makes me stand out among other people that talk about one-person businesses. And I've also named processes. Some of you know them from other videos like intelligent imitation, tactical stress, the unknown, and other things like that. And this comes from applying my interests to my expertise. So spirituality, philosophy, neuroscience, and how that works with online business, marketing, branding, etc. And I have enough exposure and experience and awareness in all of those domains, because I'm not a specialist, to note common patterns and piece together this long form content that is difficult to replicate. As to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own method. So this entire letter was based on principles to an extent, but mostly it was just my method of doing things, right? So don't take it as law. Question what I say, and I don't mean in a way where you just like write everything out in the comments. I mean, question what I say, test it, experience it, and if you come up with a better solution, create content about it. This is not the only way of doing business, clearly. And so don't narrow in on this and think that it's the only way of doing business. It's not. The main lesson from this entire video should be what I always preach. Never stop learning, never stop building, never stop evolving. Don't get trapped in one of the stages. Evolve. Distraction and comfort are the only things that can get in your way. Self-actualize, self-monetize, and self-transcend. That is the end.